Hi, and welcome to All the Woo A to Z. We're your hosts, Suzanne.
And Mychal, and this is Season 2. Hello, I'm Mychal, and I'm really excited to say that my acupuncture has really been helping my knee.
And I'm Suzanne, and I'm going to try really hard to not hit the microphone with my super talky hands.
This is All the Woo.
A to Z.
And today we're doing L for
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth. And as always, we invite you to join us at our non-judgmental table, where we talk about all of our own experiences and understandings with these subjects, and at the very least hope that you're entertained. Yep.
What's the beverage?
So the beverage for this, and I'm sorry, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this all correctly. It is Egervin, Egri, Bikaver, Bull's Blood. There we go. And it's a 2021. You can tell it just rolled right off the tongue for me there.
I'm seeing lots of punctuation in my mind.
Yes.
It is possibly in this name.
Correct. Yes. And this one actually, yes. It is a mixture of grapes. Traditionally, we'll feature grapes like Quec Francos, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Oporto. This one, I believe, is actually just Blaufränkisch.
I like Blaufränkisch.
I know. And still all fun words to say. And the reason why we're doing this, Bull's Blood, is because we're thinking about the Minotaur and the Labyrinth and the bull. And so this is coming, I don't know if I said that this is coming from Hungary. So Bull's Blood is traditionally a wine from a particular area of Hungary. And it typically has all the other grapes that I kind of mentioned. And they have different tiers as far as quality level. You don't normally find a lot of it around, as you might imagine. It's not something that you run across frequently. And
It's a good thing we know a some.
Yes. If you want to try it, it's typically a really easy styled red wine. It's medium bodied on average. It's good.
Just a good drinking wine.
Yeah, it's just good. Yeah.
To go with your bull dancing.
Exactly.
In your labyrinth.
In your labyrinth.
All righty.
All right. So, Labyrinth.
Should I take this one since I actually have one in my backyard?
Yeah, I was going to actually first, because I want our audience to hear this. Because when we talked about this became quite the conversation. Suzanne has strong feelings about how people interpret a labyrinth. So why don't you, I feel like maybe we should start there. What is a labyrinth, Suzanne?
All but handing me a soapbox.
Yes. So
a labyrinth is not a maze.
Not a maze.
They are not interchangeable.
Even though,
according to the dictionary, they are interchangeable.
Exactly. I do want to point that out.
My beloved Synonym Finder
starts out with a maze.
Yes. But it is, yes. So
what is the difference?
The phrase is that you go into a labyrinth to find yourself. You go into a maze to get lost. So a labyrinth, by definition, is there's only one way in and only one way out. So if you just keep walking, you will get there.
Just keep swimming?
Pretty much. Whereas a maze is designed with dead ends and places where you have to backtrack, and it's designed to confuse you. A labyrinth is designed to help you find your way out. So one of them is for a spiritual practice, and one of them is for, probably at the height, entertaining nobles whose heads were going to be cut off eventually.
Okay.
So two very different ideologies. The tricky thing is that we have Labyrinth from the Daedalus reference about the Minoans, even though the description of where the Minotaur was living
was a maze.
Was in fact a maze.
Yes.
With all of the dead ends and
which is why they needed a clue.
Which, yes, I love the fact that clue and clue are the same word spelled two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So the clue that we are referring to, gentle listener, if you don't happen to be completely immersed in Minoan minutia, is CLEW. But it is related to the word that became Clue, CLUE, which, by the way, is a hilarious movie if you ever want to just laugh.
And also a fun board game.
Yeah. Yeah. And the movie's based on the board game.
Yes.
So that was less of a Labyrinth reference and more of a maze one, because it's just like, okay, we went here, it's a dead end, and we're turning around and going to another part of the conversation.
Yes. Well, something to point out, the reason why I'm kind of putting Suzanne on the spot, because I think you said this quickly, that you have one.
I do.
Suzanne has a labyrinth in her backyard.
So it used to be that I knew where all of the labyrinths in Dallas were, and it was probably one of the earliest forms of meditation that I did. And so when my boyfriend at the time, who eventually became my husband, were driving anywhere, I would be like, oh, could you stop at the labyrinth?
And of course, he became familiar with which ones you were referring to.
He's got that kind of mind that can, map everything out. So
Yes.
he became very aware of where all the labyrinths in Dallas were.
Did you have a choice? Did he ever say, which one? Which one do you want to go to?
Usually we were driving by, it would be like on, oh, it's the one on Forest Lane, or it's the one on Inwood, or whatever. So it would be, do we have 30 minutes for me to go to the labyrinth?
Yes.
Or there were a couple of churches that had them inside. It was just, there were labyrinths.
And also, while we were backtracking to right before we were discussing this subject, Suzanne then went on a Labyrinth Finder website and pulled up two different areas. One was England as being one, I believe.
Which, it was just completely, I will put it in the notes, but yes, the labyrinth locator.
Yes.
And the country was obscured.
Like, you would probably trip over one without even trying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just like country under there somewhere.
Yes.
But why is this woo, I think,
is a good question.
Is the question of the episode. And one of the fascinating things about a labyrinth, a true labyrinth, which is the one way in, one way out. And there are several different shapes of that. There's ones that we have from like Australia. There is the traditional one that you have in Paris at the cathedral. So, and there's at least one other form. So they all have the same plan. And it's because if you start with a question as you walk through the labyrinth, your brain is in parasympathetic, or your system's in parasympathetic by the process of walking and the rhythm of it. But you are also flipping between the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. So it's a great way to make decisions, which is how I used to go in kind of with a question and ask for assistance and then walk through the labyrinth. And by the time you get to the center, usually I would have a little chat with God, and then I would walk out kind of asking if that was what I thought was the answer. Can you confirm that by the time I get out, kind of thing. And so that was how I practiced. But monks, I mean, basically every kind of religious organization has used this as a form of meditation. And gentle listener, if you're like, I want to do meditation, but I just can't, like, you can't be still that long. It's a great way to practice moving meditation because you are focused on the space that you're in. You're not looking ahead. If you just keep your eyes on the path, you will get there and get out.
Yes.
So I would say that's probably a woo life lesson in a lot of ways. Just be present and keep moving.
Yes.
And you'll get out alive. But
or maybe not alive, but you'll get out.
You'll get out complete.
Yes.
So
yes.
But I would say that's why it's woo, because it is an invisible system that is working on you and with you to reach a greater clarity.
Mm-hmm. So it makes me think of, there was a labyrinth that was famous in Egypt. Big surprise. We're going to harken back to Egypt, which I don't know. They haven't found it yet. They had just found evidence of, in literature, it being referenced to. People had written about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was it one of the wonders of the world? Because it was so big. I remember that was also the other thing that people kind of talked about, that it took days for you to get through it. You would go in. And it was also not just, for funsies. I'm going to go in. And this was a whole structure that was, so it was dark. And I believe it was also.
And it was the Apis Bulls.
Yes.
I believe I used this as a location for a book.
Possibly.
I believe I had characters in there.
Yes. But people will often, in that form, there was also spiritual lessons to be learned through walking it. It wasn't just, I'm going to go for a walk. That wasn't what it was about.
Let's go into some tunnels and walk for a couple days. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Sounds like fun. Sign me up. No. Yeah. Especially where there's places where snakes and scorpions, and as much as I love Egypt, when people go down, it seems like a fun time. Those are all the other things that also like the darkness that will hang out. So crawling around down there is not always the safest thing to do.
No, but if you think about it, I'm trying to remember the name of the scorpion god. And obviously snake was multiple different gods. So yes, just it turns it into a spiritual adventure.
Yes.
Just hanging out here with the goddess.
Me and my friends.
It's like Hecate or something like that.
Do you want me to look this up?
No, it's okay. But yes, the scorpion goddess, who was not the scorpion king, y'all. There was a scorpion king.
Not the same.
Not that story.
Right.
So,
okay. So for a labyrinth, how do you, and you've already kind of touched on this, but.
So the reason why I have a labyrinth in the backyard.
Yes.
Is because my husband decided that was what he was going to give me as the Christmas present one year. And so we were out there measuring for the labyrinth, and it is a big labyrinth. Especially to be on private property.
Yes.
And for years, that was the spiritual practice that I did. And, it was also a great way to get in your steps.
That's true.
Especially during the, lockdown.
It's like he knew you or something. That's weird.
Magic.
So since you have one readily available to you, and also beforehand, you knew all the locations of all the other ones. And as a regular user of labyrinths, how often would you recommend that somebody utilize a labyrinth?
I would say it's a great place to pray, especially, like I said, if you have a hard time being still and meditating or praying or anything like that. And I had a good friend who was dying for a while, and then she died. And that was where I would go and pray for her. And it was just it's very rhythmic. So there's sort of a flow feel to it.
Yeah.
Not at all like standing in the ocean and feeling the tide come in and out, but a little bit.
Okay.
So having the response of that in your body as opposed to having the experience of it.
So are you saying this is being a daily practice for somebody?
I would say it depends on how close you are to a labyrinth, for one thing.
Yeah.
Because I think any daily practice that is effective is the daily practice you will do. So if you, there's one around the corner from where I live at a church. And so, that was another location that I went to before I had one. But I think it depends on what your other practices are, but really how much does it feel good to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing, is it wasn't anything that was ever an effort.
Mm-hmm.
It was always easy. And so in answer to your question of how frequently, I would say, if this sounds intriguing at all, gentle listener,
give it a shot.
Give it a shot, see how you feel, and then, look up and see where there's another one. Because like I said, there are different forms, and so they may feel different as well. One of the reasons that I like the form I have is because I can feel the historical ties to it. It's a way of my backyard in Texas connecting to ancient practices.
Yeah.
And so it feels like, a Cretan dancing floor or whatever kind of thing when I'm in it, especially if I'm walking at night.
Yeah. So
under a moon.
Full confession.
She's never walked a labyrinth.
I'm not a labyrinth walker.
Ah.
Not to say that I never have, but the times I have done it, I can't tell you exactly, but I know that it will fit all on one hand.
It has been amazing being the owner of Labyrinth, watching people who are trying to figure out how to walk in it, and how many people just get frustrated and just walk
across it.
We have a phrase that we call, disrespecting the labyrinth, and it'll be like, they're disrespecting the labyrinth. To be fair, that the cats who use my backyard disrespect the labyrinth all the time. But
are they though? Maybe they're really respecting it. I don't know. It depends on
they're being best at.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that either resonates or it doesn't. And so it seems to me that people who have a harder time being not in control have a harder time, because they're like, I have to keep just taking the steps. Like, it can't just cut through.
What are you trying to say, Suzanne?
Just saying, I've observed most of my friends are like, but where I'm going is right there.
Yeah.
So I'm just going there and then I'm getting out, right? I mean, isn't that the point? It's
and
like,
then we're done. You're like, no.
It's the journey. But
maybe we need to make a little plaque that has directions for the labyrinth. This is how you use it. We'll just put it up there.
Just keep stepping. Look at there. But I think that's also one of the things, it's funny. Labyrinths have been such a big deal for me for so long that the program that I used to teach, we actually renamed it The Writer's Path, which was based on, there was a book by, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, Christoper Vogler, who, it was the writer's journey, and it had a labyrinth on the cover, original cover. And so that was sort of the process that I used to take people through the process of writing a book, but understanding that it was a process.
Yeah.
And so I think that there are people who are maybe process-oriented people and people who are outcome-focused people. And, everybody's some blend, but I think being really process-oriented, like that's the part that to me is almost more enjoyable. And so it seems, my dear Virgo friend, that you might be just a little bit more outcome-oriented.
Maybe. I think the closest that I've come to it, although not a labyrinth, is a medicine wheel. I've walked a medicine wheel, which, for those of you who don't know, you kind of walk around. And I did this with a shaman at the time, so I was being guided to, walk around so many times, and then where you stop is what kind of tells them that is your throwing of shells or your tarot cards, essentially. It's kind of telling them where you are in that moment. And in fact, you are physically there. So there you go.
So you can just pause anywhere and they're like, oh, okay. So she's 3 feathers and a conch shell. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did that in Sedona.
Okay.
Seems to all fit, right?
Another place that was completely obscured by labyrinth. Yeah.
Yeah. And my hometown, Tucson, also looked like, yes, completely.
Couldn't read it.
Yep.
had to hand my phone to Mychal and be like, so where? And she'd be like, it's right there.
It's right there. If you just enlarge it, you can see
underneath all the little red icons
is Tucson. Yes.
So, but yeah, but I think anything that helps us look at any situation from opposing points of view, from the left side, right side of the brain, even though the more studies they do on the brain, the more they're like, it's not a left side, right side thing. It's like some parts fire and then some other parts fire. So it's not broken up the way that the cool diagrams look like.
Yeah.
But that's the different functions to be able to see. And as I think about it, it's more as you are sort of like a 3D printer of a situation, and you are just 3D printing the solution as you walk through.
Okay.
And so you get to the center, and then you think you have the solution, and then you walk your way back out as a confirmation or what needs to change, or, all of those kinds of questions. So, but I will say, I don't think there was a time I've ever walked it where I did not feel comforted, held, peaceful by the time I got out.
The elements of woo?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes that took a couple rounds, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we are now on our last letter for the season. And so there's no choosing it. It has been chosen. So for those of you who may already know, based if you've been paying attention.
If you've been playing some weird bingo game where the whole alphabet, you will know, as we now know.
It is Y.
Not. Why not? Why not be Y?
As in Yahtzee.
There you go. So thank you for joining us, and we will
see you next time.
All the woo.
A to Z.